No, you can't do that. No, you got to get your work done before you can play.
The whole board is cheering, you know.
And you're on. Okay.
Yes. Good afternoon. The Design Review Board No.1 public meeting of May 29th, 2008 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our Design Review Board hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and the Design Review Board reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 7 or 15 calendar days of the Design Review Board decision date, depending on when the case was filed. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. In terms of a roll call, Board Member Aliano.
Here.
Board Member Ellis.
Present.
Board Member Insua is absent. Chairperson Simonian.
Here.
Board Member Yu.
Here.
Report regarding the posting of agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on May 22nd, 2008. In terms of oral communications, we have no business cards for oral communications. And just in public notice, on number 6 of the agenda, there was to have been a discussion on the record of decision for the Design Review Board cases. That discussion is being postponed for 2 weeks. So we will have that discussion regarding the record of decision in 2 weeks at the next board meeting. Okay. That concludes all of staff's announcements. There is only one item on tonight's agenda, and that is case number 1-PDR 2007-121-A at 1410 Andenise Drive.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the Design Review Board, the case is 1-PDR-2007-121-C, located at 1410 Andenise Drive. The applicant is Raphael, and the project proposal for this entire project is to construct a new 1,419 square foot second-story addition to an existing 1,851 square foot single-family dwelling unit. The combined lot size for the project is 13,680 square feet. The project will include a 221 square foot addition to the first floor. The total habitable floor area for the project will be 3,491 square feet. This project was last heard in January 24th of this year. The previous submittals are shown here under the old plans. These are the new submitted plans here showing the site plan, elevations, part of the neighborhood survey, proposed floor plans for the first and second story, roof plan, and multiple elevation views of the project in scale. This particular page has been provided by the applicant, who did an overlay of the GIS map from Public Works to do basically an analysis of the building footprints within the neighborhood. I have reviewed this, and it is quite accurate to what we have on file. And again, another perspective rendering with some drawings, or actually neighboring buildings that are in the neighborhood. This project is located in the R1R residential district zone, floor area district 2. And this project was actually, the house was constructed in 1937 and is exempt from CEQA. A little bit for the site planning, as we will. We have 3 existing protected trees on site. 2 of them at the rear. It's a double trunk oak tree, and 1 sycamore to the front of the property that is closely to the north of the property line. Okay, I would like to go over the conditions that the board proposed in January 24th. There were 10 conditions
Mr. Randolph, before you get to the conditions, what did the applicant try to portray in this analysis, the neighborhood analysis here? What was the intent?
I believe the overall location of the second story, I'm trying to, not really.
If that's something we'd have to ask
I
him.
believe the applicant, yes. I just wanted to confirm that as far as the placement of the actual
footprints.
footprints were correct, and they're very well placed. And
Very good.
I believe the applicant. Okay, going to the 10 conditions that were enlisted on January 24th. The first one being provided 1/8 scale plans for better clarification and clear detection. The second condition, provide 50% calculations to reassure that the scope of work will not trigger the new construction regulations. Condition number 3, provide site plans, which includes proposed floor plan for the first and second story. And condition number 8 was to provide a site plan which is less confusing, and the site plan should reflect the proposal a little bit more clearer. Those conditions 1 through 8, all of those submittal requirements have been submitted and do reflect the board's comments. Condition number 4 was to restudy the fascia board size. The new proposed fascia size is a 2x8 and maintains the same color as the previous submittal. Condition number 5, to restudy the south elevation. The new proposed south elevation includes a new balcony with new window locations. A new roof design has been introduced, and also a reduction in wood siding has been proposed on the second story. If I may direct your attention to the plans, actually the previous submittal had wood siding completely wrapped around the entire second story. The new proposal has minimized the reduction, or actually the siding, and some elevations have completely eliminated. Condition number 6, the color chart appears to be dark, providing new color scheme. The applicant has provided a new color scheme along with new chips that appear to be a little lighter than the previous submittal. Condition number 7 was to restudy the placement of shutters. Wood shutters have been introduced since the previous submittal. The wood shutters have been introduced on all elevations. Condition number 9, the second floor is not properly integrated with the existing house. Symmetrical in nature detracts from the project. The existing house has a nice asymmetry that should be respected, and the house looks massive. The applicant has redesigned the front elevation to address the asymmetry. Square footage has been reduced, and a gable roof has been removed. With respect to this elevation, if I could show, on this north elevation, there was a volume that was eliminated from the previous submittal, shown there. And the last condition that the board had on January 24th was to appreciate the refinement of columns and siding. The columns have been removed, and the amount of wood siding has been reduced. The columns pertaining to the front elevation here, as you can see in the new proposed elevation, have been completely eliminated. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes, sir.
On our packet, on the staff report, on page 2, and I think it repeats all around here, it says the project is 3,491 square feet. Oh, you know what, I catch that. And it was at one time 3,358. That was the previous submittal? Is that what I'm...
The project proposal, and for the total square footage?
Yeah. It's grown a little bit?
3391, and I believe...
3,491.
Sorry, 3491 is what they've proposed now. Previously,
Was it at 3,358?
I believe that is correct. It has reduced minimally in square footage. I can verify that with the previous staff report.
Well, that's going up, though. If what you're telling me is... Because I guess my question was, is if it's 3,491 and it's only a .25 today, but in January it was 3,358, which is smaller square footage, but it was a .26. I'm a little confused at where they are.
Okay, I can verify that.
Okay, that's just
by error or...
I don't know which one, which way.
Check the plans as well.
Okay, all right. And nothing's ringing a bell in your head at this point, though. Okay, that was a question I had.
Do you have any more questions for staff?
No. Okay, I believe the aerial photograph will be regenerated at this moment, and just so you can get a better sense of what the project looks like. And the applicant is in the audience.
Very good, thank you very much. We only have one card for this case, which is the applicant, Rafael Quezada. Please approach the podium and mention your name for the record, please. Thank you. Well, there were a couple of questions which we have for you, but I
address
think...
yours first. The intent there is just that I had painstakingly reconstructed the neighborhood as part of a study just to show how the massing looks. There were many more diagrams submitted, such as the one down at the bottom that shows in scale how these houses shape up without landscaping, so just showing the structures themselves. And I should say that, of course, the lawns and the roadways shown, but it's without trees. The intent was to be able to have a model that you could view from a variety of points, and I brought some diagrams that would show that if you wanted to see it, and that was the intent of that. And in answer to your question, what occurred was in the first plan, there was an error. There was an additional first floor that had been figured in, and the second floor was larger. The second floor was reduced in the second plan, and the error was caught on the first recalculation, and we wound up at 3491.
And .25.
Right.
Wait, okay.
Right, which was critical to maintaining under a 3,500 square foot in order not to trigger additional
Right,
zoning ordinances.
right, okay.
The existing building,
Yes.
the way it sits, as you exit from the rear of the building
Yes.
into the backyard, is there an existing deck at the
Yeah,
rear
there's a-
yard at
there's-
this point in time?
There's, I think I can show it to you here.
Oh, on the reverse picture.
It's, you see this?
I'm going to try to reverse the picture.
Ah,
Where'd
okay.
it go? Where did it go?
Right here.
Oh, there, okay, you reversed it. So this is a deck that extends underneath this trellis all the way to the kitchen. So
Oh, okay.
That's not,
And the finished elevation of that deck is being maintained with the finished elevation
Yes.
of this proposed deck over here?
yes.
I
It's
see.
in fact the same with the exception that there's a sliver, if you look at the floor plan, there's a sliver of the family room that's being added, which is where the computation issue arose. And there is a section of the bedroom that's adjacent to the family room, which is also added to. So the deck is reduced in terms of that.
Oh, I see, okay.
But there is still, the horizontal line is still maintained.
So this line in the old site plan is the boundary of the deck,
Right.
and wherever, so assuming, the tree stayed the same spot, that deck is somewhere around here.
Yeah, it's a little bit to your right, a bit. Yeah, about right in there.
And then that portion is being eliminated?
No, it's
It's staying.
Staying.
I see. And so then that portion
So it's a pair of horizontal lines, exactly.
is this portion right here?
With the stair shown. That stair exists today exactly that way.
I see. Well, if you would, just walk us through some of the modifications that have occurred since last time, and addressing some of the concerns that we had.
We tried to come back to the original architecture, although originally we felt that it was a tract house that was rather quickly designed. We, after consultation with the board, decided there were strong features that maybe we could work on and help to maintain the character, play up and enhance. And so what we did was in the placement of the new roof line, we tried to maintain the asymmetry which caused in topography, one side of the house to rise higher and step down, so that we reflected that in the second floor, as opposed to the original design, which was introducing symmetry that did not previously have a justification. And we, in order to eliminate the posts on the balcony and maintain more of a horizontality of the house to help ground it more, we went to a steel frame proposed balcony for supporting the floor joists of the upstairs porch, which eliminated the need for posting, and that gave us, I think, a less of a vertical statement, which helps the house hug the earth a little better and emphasizes more of its low-lying features, as opposed to fronting on the street with a large vertical statement. So those are the goals. And then in working with Stephanie, excuse me, I should not address her by her first name, but that's what I remember at the moment. We diminished the projection of the upstairs deck by 2 feet, brought it back to something that was more or less of a statement, and tried to keep the house more to scale. Although when you look at the house in proportion with its neighbors, it, owing to partly to the topography and partly to the oversized scale of some roof lines, it seems to fit the neighborhood, and makes verified that by really painstakingly surveying the neighborhood, worked with the GIS from engineering, and then worked with an inclinometer to get the actual heights of the roofs, and then worked with Google Satellite to generate the actual roof lines in their design.
See. And are the windows going to be all replaced?
The windows are going to be replaced. The upstairs are going to be replaced. The downstairs are going to be matched.
I see. And what is the downstairs windows?
They're wood.
They're wood right now.
Right.
I see. And so then, when we have this type of a different window here, these are existing?
Yeah, those are existing, and they may be changed as part of the. It's a budget issue, but they may very well be changed.
And as far as this roof that doesn't have the kind of eave that everything else does, what was the mentality behind that?
Well, that was actually, if you look at the original house, it has, that's a preponderant design scheme.
I see.
And it helps to I guess, diminish the scale. Originally, I wanted to add eaves and gables with overhangs to try to introduce horizontality that way, but I think you were right in assessing that it was going to make it far too strong a roof line for the house, and this is in better keeping with that particular style of house. And I think that it helped to enhance it so it doesn't look so much like a tract house anymore. It just looks like we used the design features that the original builder was trying to employ.
Do we have other questions for the applicant?
Can you talk a little more about how you determine sort of the roof lines on the upstairs and downstairs? Because I'm having a difficult time seeing some of those, and how there's some areas that are very awkward in how they come together. So
Well,
I'm wondering how.
they are an attempt to keep the house low. I actually removed about 1.5 feet from the overall roof line compared with the original proposal. And you can see the pitch is reduced to the type of slope that exists on the house today. So in so doing, in order to also maintain that stepped feeling, I wound up needing to cross in the same manner as the original house is. So the gables that come off of the main ridge line have the same feeling. In fact, if you look at the diagram, which is the north elevation here on the bottom, that whole west wing is exactly as it always.
Yeah, you have to speak into the podium because it's being recorded.
Oh, I beg your pardon. So the west wing is exactly as it always was.
You're talking about this here?
Yes, and that, in answer to Mr. Simonian's previous question, that's the roof line that kind of establishes the basis and precedent for a gable that is flat rather than projecting.
Okay. I guess some of my questions, I understand that this is sort of a feature that's here, and it is nice because it is small and versus the whole elevation, but once you start taking it to the side in this huge, large span, it loses some other characteristics there. And then you end up creating weird conditions where things are coming together, like
It's the house that
lines or something.
the house that is as it exists today closes gables off with a sided facet in that manner. And we're either going to go back to the original style and play off of it, or then let's just change the style.
I think it's going to work now, and things like this, you got weird conditions happening here. You have this portion that you just basically created to basically match the upstairs when you don't really need anything on the lower level. Because you have...
Well, we do, actually, because otherwise that just becomes a long, uninterrupted straight line and we don't have a porch cover.
I think
That gave us a porch cover and an entrance that is covered. You look at, those perspective
And
drawings.
then you got sort of this huge cantilever here then that's really heavy at the top.
That view is not even really visible other than that particular view that you see from the street.
Yeah.
You could solve that easily, but
But even if you just had a continuous, it's okay.
the thing is that these ridge lines are not aligning. This ridge line, this roof is different than the ridge line. Ridge line here.
Yeah,
Here, so
is that a bad sign? I'll sit down.
overwhelming.
The view of that gable, Mr. Yu, the view of that, you're looking at an illustration, but the view of that, if you look 2 drawings over from there,
This one?
yes, and top left, exactly, up at the top left there.
Okay.
That's the view of it. It isn't imposing to the neighborhood. But it does create an adequate entry porch cover that,
Yeah, look at that.
Could that roof just become one plane? Is that where you're getting at, Mr. Yu? It's just- Yeah.
Yeah.
But he has to do the gable here, otherwise these ridges are gonna line. So this ridge is gonna be lower. You can see that's lower than that. Well, it does not show that, but
And those are existing? Are those existing?
No, it's all single story.
yeah, he's taking the whole roof out.
So he could theoretically align.
I think it would almost look better even if this thing popped up a little bit,
Yeah.
than
you could do
to have
that.
this
Yeah,
huge thing.
You could do that.
It's a matter of...
You're still gonna have
an...
an overhang.
Yeah, which is
But
fine.
you could, like I said, you could do a planting box. too.
Stephanie asked not to have a column there. So, again, that was a concession.
Well, do we have any more questions for the applicant?
You know what, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You're finished your
No, I
thought.
was just one more. The siding that's upstairs, it looks like you're using it to connect between the zone of the windows going across.
That's in keeping with the original also, if you,
Okay, so that's happening on the...
that's happening on the first floor, if you look closely at those photographs. In fact, the actual photographs that were provided also.
Okay. Then how come it's not happening on the first floor now? Was that a decision that...
No, it's there. It's there between the windows. Let's put it this way, on the first floor, it's a feature that Mr. Simonian objected to previously because it eliminated a shutter on one side of the window and didn't seem logical to him at that time. So we kept it the way that it is, because I think in the second submittal, I made the error of simply removing shutters from the proposed design. So we're back to what the original is, in which case then the siding comes back into play, and we tried to reflect that in the design of the second floor. You look, yes, right there,
Right here.
exactly, right there. And that's going to be maintained.
And you're referring to more of this horizontal band of siding perhaps
No,
here?
I was just wondering why it was used here, all the way across.
And not
And it looks like it's being here, but, wouldn't it sort of
They're just accents, Mr. Yu.
sits here and here, and, I was just asking what the rationale for not carrying it through, I guess.
I have a question. I noticed I was there on Sunday. Is there a project going on now, some other project on the property? Do you know?
No, they're actually, the children are very athletic, and they're making some trampoline space, so they're moving things around.
Oh, I got you, okay, because there was a porta potty, and I thought it looked like there was some construction going on, and I was wondering what was involved.
No, I'm not sure if that was at that house. Was that house?
The one in the picture up there, if that's the house,
Yeah.
1410. Yeah, there was, on Sunday, there was a porta potty in the driveway. So, I mean,
I can ask. I know that they had a temporary storage device, because they were moving rooms from side to side, and then they were trying to set up an area where they remove lawn furniture and so forth, and they were going to try to do a trampoline.
do a
for it.
trampoline, okay.
Okay, so we don't have any more questions
I
for
do
the
not,
applicant?
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what, wait a minute, yes, there's always one last question. On the south, I'm sorry, facing the house faces north?
Yes, it does.
So it'd be on the left, which would be the east?
Yes,
There's an existing fence that comes all the way down to the curb,
driveway side, yeah.
driveway side. I'm just wondering what the issue on the fence and the setback, I guess,
That, I think, is the way that the house was at the time they bought it, and I'm not sure if anybody's ever objected to it previously.
okay, there's, as far as you know, that at this point, there's no other fencing in the plan. I mean, it's all existing, what's in the, you're not changing it?
Right,
Okay.
For the record,
yes,
your windows that are facing the street,
yes, sir.
the new and the existing ones that are going to be replaced, are they
The-
going to be replaced with all wood windows?
Yes, and the intent is that they may be wood-clad to eliminate the need for maintenance, substantially reduce the need for maintenance, but they are the gelled wind type that are made as though they're wood. The moldings are very elaborate.
And you could consider this and think about it in the next few minutes, because the idea is today for you to specify what sort of windows you're going to use, and that's what the board will base their
Well,
decision on.
they are gelled wind, and the issue is matching what's there, so that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to be matched for the
And
style.
currently,
since this-
currently the exterior is wood windows, so from the outside you see
Exactly.
wood windows.
Right.
And
So the intent is to match what's there. If they decide they're going to change them all, I think that was the discussion that they may go to wood with cladding. But in that, like I say, in that case, they're still going to match what's there, and that's the bottom line. The intent is to match the style of the windows that are there.
And we could kind of roll that into a condition, maybe.
Sure.
Okay, well, we have no more questions for that.
One more. There's two colors involved, right?
There is one that was the siding and one that is the stucco, but they're very close.
Right. Sorry. Okay.
So number 5, which is the lighter blue on the left,
Yeah,
is the stucco or the siding?
I think it's a stucco.
And that's the siding?
Yeah, the siding. So we're trying to maintain a lighter overall design to better fit the value of color in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, since we have no more cards from the audience, think the public session is closed. So who would like to go first? Mr. Aliani? Since you're standing?
As you're standing.
Start, I think we're probably going to...
Last one standing gets to go first.
Well, there's been quite a few improvements from the previous scheme, the signature being eliminated. It makes for a much nicer project. That was probably one of the things that we had the hardest time with, sort of this ground level, symmetrical, and then extruded up. But there was something about the old scheme, though, that we're not seeing today, which I thought was quite nice, and that was the way that the house actually steps at this edge, where in this scheme now, though, this actually is brought straight out, all the way to the outside. I'm not sure what generated that, but I'm sure by moving things around, probably that's what had to happen. But this, I think, is a plus, especially when and I'm surprised that the neighbors have... This is kind of a very awkward situation. I mean, this is what they're going to be looking at.
They're very close.
Yeah, and it's just one big, tall wall. Before, the fact that this was actually back kind of helped. So that's a concern. There's some nice things, that we see in this generation, which is basically, even though this is quite awkward, like we talked about, if you kind of squint a little bit and you forget that for a second, there's, this corner here is actually quite nice, the way it's masked, the way it steps, and there's enough detail on the windows and up here to really start, the scale of that is quite nice. I think this could probably be worked out, the roof. The parts of the house I have more difficulty with have to do with what I just mentioned, which would be this. I think that needs a bit more work. And also just the frontage, of the house. It just feels, the steps, the way they appear, there's no real definition. It's not a porch, it's not a deck. It's just, filling a space of just a brick or paving, whatever it would be. And there's really there's nothing going on at this end. It's not like you can actually access anything there. This is where you're going to be, and that just becomes a big platform. And it doesn't feel very domestic to me. It feels like a lot of leftover space that just got filled in. So from a frontage viewpoint, it doesn't have that, to me, it doesn't have that much of a curb appeal for that reason. Same with this elevation, I think it's also problematic when you get up here, because when you look at the plan, it's the frontage of the street, but it's storage space, closet. There's a window, but it's going to be a fake window. There's no way that window's ever going to be open. And then there's a bathroom at the other end. Again, with another thing up here that implies that there's a balcony where people actually come out to, but it's not really that. So it's very awkward. Yeah, it's very awkward. I just think it's trying to make a statement, but I think it's in the planning. Something has to happen in the plan so that all of this actually becomes a little bit more meaningful. Otherwise, you're just going to get a dead elevation there. It's just, that balcony has no real purpose. I mean, there's a nice little house here. You can see how the scale of that balcony is quite nice. Maybe you could still have a balcony somewhere here. Maybe it's just symmetrical and not bring it all the way across. Maybe it's better not to do that. I'm just thinking out loud. But I think there needs to be a little more meaning in what we're presenting on the exterior. So we talked about that, and then I guess this elevation, as I talked earlier, is really the most problematic. Sure, I think if there's a way to pull this back and somehow capture a little bit of that, I think it would be very helpful. And something needs to happen here. When you look at the plan, what do we really have there? It's just, big, actually right here, right?
Yeah.
first floor, second floor. I mean, there's no windows at all. These windows, I think, are for the space below, right?
Right.
Yeah, down there.
In fact, they could easily get some windows in those two
Well, they
rooms
could do some
step
clear
back.
story, yeah, they could do something, but, I mean, that, I think, is really not a good thing for this neighborhood. I would not like to look at. So I'm just speaking on their behalf, really. Because you'll never see it from the street, so not really an impact. But I think once you start thinking about these things, I think the roof plan will start to make a little bit more sense. But this is very, very awkward. It looks, to me, the roof plan kind of says it all. It's not coming together yet. Because you have to do all these gymnastics to make things work. And you got to have a gable intersecting another gable, then you have hips, you have a gable there, and then you have hips there. There's sort of this mixture of roof types, where I think it would be nice to pick one and say it's either going to be a gable house or a hip roof house or a flat roof house, which I don't think that's what they want. But certainly you can do a gable or at least a hip system that's consistent throughout. I think if you worked on that, talked about, if you worked on this elevation, maybe somehow to bring it in, it'll be, yeah, I think that would be more acceptable. Right now, it still feels very massive, and it's very heavy on that side. And I can see the argument, there's another house there. This is really always going to be clipped when you view the house from this point of view. All this weight is actually bearing on the neighbor. Yeah, so I think it needs another level of refinement. As far as the siding, there's a language issue as well, because now everything is kind of stripped down. Some places you have siding, some places you have shutters, some places you don't. I think it's important to be consistent, because the style is very sort of unclear. It's not this style of a house. You would see a lot, a mixture of stucco and siding, and side outlines with the windows, which is nice. I do like that. I think that works. It just would be nice to carry it throughout. You have to figure out a way to integrate it with the rest of the house so that it looks like one house. There's lots of fragments everywhere. So these are the kind of general statements that I'd like to make, because I don't want to, I just want to give sort of a general direction. I would just do a little bit more work on it before we start.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Yu?
First of all, I think that the latest version has come a long way, and you have taken in sort of the comments that were in there before and incorporated them, and we appreciate that. There's just a couple areas that I would like to see a little further refinement, and some of the areas I think you touched on, I think, are good points. I think you were right. The best part of the design right now, it is sort of this area and this area, and how some of the characteristics on the first floor were carried over to the second floor, and then how it steps back and creates these different roof lines. But they're small roof lines that are visible and they're very nice. I think this front porch area, you're right. You need to kind of take a approach on that and take a stance on. Is it basically a porch on both sides, bottom and top, so it creates a nice sort of repetition of the porches? And in doing that, I think this area will be maybe a little more activated if it has some of the characteristics of the guardrail and those kinds of things, so that you have an area where you can actually use it and it's not just an open sort of like an elevated stage or something. I think that this portion here, stepping back into the same line that you had before, so basically taking this and pushing it back in and lining it up with this, it's a way to go, because it is going to impact your neighbor on that side. And by doing that, lining this up, I think it's going to solve your roof problem as well. It's going to simplify that roof plan, because then you don't have this staggered, double roofs coming into one area. I think those two areas and this corner here, just take a closer look at that. And I think the rest of it, it's almost there. And, I think if you improve on some of those areas, it'll be a lot closer.
Thank you, Mr. Yu.
Is this page one? Page one?
This is phase 2, correct?
Actually, this is the third submittal.
Third submittal, for final approval.
For final review. Yes, correct.
Third for final, okay.
Mr. Ellis?
I would echo my fellow board members. I'm a little ambivalent. I haven't seen it before, and so I kind of looked to you and saying, I don't want to come in at the last minute and whip my pencil out, but I think the things that caught my eye were very much the things you said. And now that you've spoken about it, this edge of the roof really jumped out at me. It was almost like, am I missing something, or was there a piece left off of the plan? I think, from looking at it from the neighbor standpoint, that west elevation definitely needs, the west, the neighbor's yard, the one that he's pointed out. Now, I do kind of look back.
You're talking about the east.
I'm sorry, is it the east? I thought it was the west.
This one, right?
Is that
That's the west.
that one? That's west. I mean, you marked as west.
Excuse me.
We can't have cross-communication because they're recording it, but I believe he's talking about the west elevation.
Yeah, it's west.
Yeah, that wall, right here, west elevation, I believe. Well, it's marked west here, so whichever one you want to call it, north is that way,
Right.
Facing
So
1400.
it's west.
that would be the west elevation. Right.
If north is up,
East would be that way, west would be that way, is that not the west elevation?
you're saying it's this side.
Oh, sir, I'm sorry, we can't.
Yeah, but
Yeah, why don't we go ahead?
everybody else had an issue with
We'll just use the
Is that-
labeling as, listed
Right.
on the plans, and that would be the west elevation.
Okay, thank you. And again, as you mentioned, this is the third time, I kind of look to neighbors, if they had an issue over it, would they be here to, and if they're not, I don't want to say you snooze, you lose, and then maybe because it is the third visit, that the neighbors feel that their interests have been looked after, but at any rate, that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. I concur with the board. I think there's been a drastic improvement from the second submittal to the third one. And it is just great that the system is working. You're able to take the thoughts and ideas, and cohesively, you're going to get a much nicer building out of it. And I think you're just almost there. There's going to be just this last push will get you there, and I think staff did a wonderful job really working with you to get you from the second stage to the third stage. So I think you guys did a very good job at that. And I'm not going to add anything more really than what's been said, but I would really focus on form follows function, the laundry rooms and the bathrooms and so forth. I wouldn't face them on the street, and then if you do face them onto the street, then when you put windows, it becomes not as usable. So it's always good to put closets, laundry rooms and so forth, either in the middle of the plan or on the sides facing the neighbors as opposed to the street side. So those are some things I think once you iron those out on your second floor, your massing in the building will start to look a lot better. So on the west elevation, as is illustrated on the board, you could certainly move back the bathroom and the laundry room a little bit and have that break in the wall and introduce some better windows up there as well. So all in all, I think once that form work comes in and the plan looks better, then the next thing would be just to come up with the language with your siding. And this language should really be consistent throughout the building. How you use siding between windows and how you use shutters with that combination. Whatever style you pick, go with it and just apply it, because some of the areas that you have the siding between the windows and the shutters, you've done a great job. And I would just continue that on some of the other elevations as well. And next time when you come, just bring a cut sheet of the window. that you plan on using. If you plan on...
The whole window last.
Someone looked at it.
I had literally...
Oh, sorry,
And
you
have
know, we
cross
can't.
communication.
sorry.
Again, I apologize, but just bring a cut sheet of what you plan to do, submit it to staff, and I believe we're pretty much there. If everything we just talked about gets integrated, it'll be a wonderful addition to the neighborhood. Again, we're going through this for the fourth time because it is a very big home. It's one of the biggest in the area, and it's a second story, and so we need to make sure that it's done the right way. So I commend you for all your work. You've done a great job, and let's keep that design work going forward. You've indicated you want to have a few thoughts. If you would quickly...
I just wanted to respond to a couple of the questions that came up. First, Mr. Aliano, the window on that west wall, the neighbor specifically requested that there not be a window overlooking their backyard. So the rationale is there, and the engineer appreciated a sheer panel that he could introduce that was substantial. The side of the house that doesn't step back far enough, it does have, if you look at the center top perspective view, it actually center and top.
Okay.
Now, from the backyard, which is where it aligns directly on the floor plan, it does have a straight-up configuration, but that's the backyard. The actual footprint of the second floor does step away from the first floor in visual. If you look at that middle...
This is, why
Look,
is it like that then?
Mr. Aliano, I'm calling your attention to the middle diagram.
Right, but this piece is this.
Yes, but visually, it steps away from, you see the roof line steps in? It's not as, it isn't as,
Something odd here, look. Why are you showing the footprint all the way to there?
well, it works that way because of the roof line on the first floor.
Yeah, but this is the second floor. You actually do have a plane there
Mhm.
aligning with the first floor plane. I mean, it's very...
But you can see visually in that middle diagram,
Are you talking about this
Yeah,
here?
but
Yes.
that's an optical thing. I mean, the thing is that this plane and that plane are actually on the same plane.
isn't it all an optical thing?
Not necessarily. I mean, if
Well-
you're standing here, you're going to see a wall there. You're not-
But only standing there is my point. The neighbor has a very large house. May I show you some of a view that is over here to the side? That's the view from the street. This is the view from the street on that side. You can see that, and that's not even showing the tree that exists there as well. So in the real world, it's greatly softened and blocked from view when you're anywhere up the street where that, normally if this house wasn't here, the house would have a stark feeling, but that you could say that about any house on the block. You remove the neighbor, it has a, and I only say this because the floor plan modified in order to accommodate some of the previous requests of the board brought me to that line, and also structurally in order to add some strength to that side of the house. The question from the engineer was, can we bring it to that point? So it is very much concealed, as you can see from the perspective view.
Are the neighbors aware of that?
Yes, they are. And the reason there's no neighbors here is that everybody's been shown the plan, and everyone is copacetic with it.
Okay.
So they've all had over a year to voice an opinion on this, and from the day that we've brought it to them. And all the neighbors that were noticed in terms of the across the street, the diagonal corners, and directly behind, and the diagonal corners, were all contacted.
And it's a very vocal neighborhood, and no one has showed up, which has surprised us, frankly.
Yeah. they're all very happy that something is going to be done with that property. It's one of the last houses that anybody did.
We have to be aware that their impression of the house on that side is this, and not this.
Pardon me?
No, the neighborhood, or your neighbor to that side, is under the impression that
No, they've been shown the modified as well,
they have.
yes.
I guess,
They're a tight-knit community, so they do know what each of them have planned.
I'm still not comfortable with it.
Well, we'll work on it. I'm just trying to express that it does have an optical play that,
I understand the optical
Modulates.
that you're making, it's just, 5 feet is 5 feet.
Mhm.
Do we have any more questions for the applicant?
No, that's it.
Thank you.
there was...
we got one more.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to make sure that as we go back to redesign, that we clear up some of these things so that I don't come back and not do something that you wanted me to address. But the roof line works in terms of its weatherability and the way that it addresses the levels that topographically the house sits upon the land. It steps back as well from the street. So I think some of that's reflected in that roof line. Now, I agree that if we manage to move that wall to where it's in line with the rear of the house, where it steps away, it will straighten out the ridges. I think it will raise the ridge or we can just leave a second level below for the drop-off for topography. And with respect to the laundry and the closet, Mr. Simonian, the wishes of the owner are specifically to have a laundry room where she has something to look at besides a side yard, and I can understand that. She wanted a laundry room that would open onto a porch so that in the midst of working she can sit down and take in the neighborhood.
I think our bigger issue is the window in the closet. I mean, frankly, that's the biggest thing. And then you have another window and a door in the master bathroom. So there's some functionality behind that upper balcony, which leads us to believe that it might not be as usable as a balcony, let's say, that's right off of a bedroom, let's say. So that's what we mean by that, just for the record, just so you understand where we're coming from.
Right, but just for the record, I also believe that I need to clarify that porch is usable, that the whole intent is to be able to come out from the bathroom.
In your robe?
In any way that you might agree with or not agree with. I don't think that's up to us. The porch is a usable porch. It has a door that opens onto it. It used to have a door that opened from the laundry room, which was her first desire, but we lost that when we lost the symmetry. So I don't understand really how we can address the porch as not being a porch, because it is a porch. It's thought of that way, and it's structurally designed to support weight. Plus, the children in this particular family do play in the front yard. There's a lot of play that occurs there, and they like to watch them. In answer to the question about the lower porch, it is intended that the handrail will play into the first floor. It might not have made it to the drawing, but that is the discussion, that will be a porch as well that's used in that manner.
There's no steps in front of it?
Yeah, there are steps that come down from the door, which is tucked into the side of that west wing.
There's steps here.
No, there's no steps there.
Yeah, but that's what the rendering shows.
Oh, is it showing a step there?
It's steps all the way across. Yeah, it's like a platform with steps in front.
That does need to be addressed.
It may be the brick line that makes
I
it
think
look like
I think he's right. He's looking at a step that was introduced,
Steps here and there's
Oh,
steps
okay.
here with a little...
but we can come back to the original, which was just steps from the front door, and then that would become a porch with handrail. And that was a discussion that I've had with them. I think it's been post-submittal.
Is there any more comments?
Not from me, if
Thank you.
you're through with me.
Thank you.
Thanks. You.
Thank you. We've all talked about this project, I think, for a long time. We've been talking about it for over an hour. And so we need to make some decisions as to have it come back or to have staff work with the applicant on some of these conditions. And just very quickly, if I could just have staff go over the conditions that we have until this point in time.
Correct. Now, in summary, and I believe that the board was very direct in making your recommendations regarding this particular project. The first one was regarding the west elevation and having that second floor be stepped back in line with the rear portion of the building, and that's to grant a little bit of relief and a little bit of articulation to that west elevation.
And also to resolve the roof.
And to
The roof is a big deal there. The roof is not resolved.
should be,
The west.
yes, correct. And so would you like that to be a hipped roof, or would you like that
Or whatever it needs to be worked out, but
resolved?
roofs are not resolved there.
But if it does step back, then you can unify the roof going across.
That's right.
So that'll clean that up.
Okay, and unify roof ridges. In this case, it would become uniform. One of the second items was to resolve the gable on the first floor on the east elevation and redesign that as well. Is Board Member Yu drawing, this would be the second floor, this is in regards to the first comment, is that
Yeah,
correct?
yes.
Okay, so basically by stepping back that front portion on the second floor of the west elevation, you would essentially be
So you'd be able to
solving the issues with the roof. Right, correct. And we'll make note of that as drawn on the plans by Board Member Yu. And actually, Stephanie will be watching this DVD, I'm sure, so I'm sure she'll be able to go ahead and make note of your recommendations, that is. The second comment was to resolve the issues regarding the gable on the first floor on the east elevation. There was quite a bit of discussion regarding that area, whether or not columns should be introduced or the gable should be rendered, or the actual gable should be spread wider to join the corners of the building, but to resolve that issue. The third item would be to address the front porch, and this would be on the first floor, and to resolve whether or not this is a porch with no steps but with actual handrails throughout, or to delineate that not as a porch, but to actually have it either become a porch like with guardrails, or to actually have a front entrance that's with steps in a different fashion.
And we're talking about the street elevation.
This would be the street front elevation, correct, on the first floor. Second item was to restudy the functionality of the second floor porch and the orientation of those windows leading into the closets and laundry room and bathroom. Would you like to include that as well, or specify that, to re-examine the actual functionality? As Mr. Simonian, or Board Member Simonian mentioned, form should follow function. I'm not sure if that's something that the board felt highly...
I think it's appropriate to say consider.
Okay, consider. That would be a consideration. The roof system should be carried out and consistent throughout. The treatment of the language of the siding and the shutters should also be consistent and carefully thought of throughout all four elevations. And again, this is, forgive me because I have notes throughout, but this goes back to the first comment that was made. The awkwardness of the roof pitches and gables on the east elevation, as seen in the roof plan, will then again be resolved once that front portion is pushed back. Elevation. Again, going back, once the second floor of that west elevation is stepped back, will that resolve the issues that the board had regarding the massiveness and the heaviness of that elevation? Or would you like something to actually be done to the window fenestration pattern as well?
We're talking about the west
This
elevation?
would be the west elevation.
Well, if the neighbors don't want a window there, it's fine. I think if he pulls that piece back, I think that will resolve the roof. Also relieve the neighbors, because that thing is going to be right on the property, only 5 feet from the property line. You won't get any, north facing, but just pushing that back will help a lot.
Okay, so that would resolve that issue. And last but not least, the applicant should provide a cut sheet for the windows showing that these will be wood windows or wood-clad windows.
Did you talk about the roofs, the selection, choosing a
I mentioned the roof system should be carried and consistent throughout the structure.
hip or gable?
So either hip or gable.
This isn't even here,
That's the laundry room, huh?
but there's no window there.
I looked at that, I thought there was.
Okay, just circle it and put a question mark in.
I think this area here, if the roof doesn't come out, there's enough room where we talked about earlier, maybe this could be a planting area. There could be, the shutters in the way, but there could be a column or two here, so that this maybe there's more than one column, maybe this becomes a little porch for the stair, because you're going to have a railing here anyway. So you could design this so it's all, you could do brick on this side, you could planting area just to clear the window so that this corner is relieved, and because the corner is notched, it's not like this thing is coming all the way to that. So I don't know if that would be so bad. The problem is these shutters, they're not. The column will be sort of in the way.
Something they go work.
Yeah, they really need to work that out, but a hanging roof like that, it's going to be very
It's going to be awkward.
So we really don't, I think what you should say in the notes is that we don't really...
So either actually address that gable on the first floor on the east elevation or work out the corner to somehow or other substantiate it either with a planter underneath or with columns or some type of architectural element that actually grounds that floating corner at this point in time.
That's what it's all about.
Supports it
Floating
vertically, yeah.
ceiling there.
That's the key phrase, is supports it vertically with a column, that floating roof.
Yeah.
I think staff got most of the points, not all of them. So I guess now the decision to look into is...
I think one thing that I wanted to add, that we're asking them to consider that balcony and make it more meaningful.
Yes.
I think that's fine with me, but it should be strongly emphasized, because the way that second floor is laid out, there's a lot of planning things that we haven't talked about that we don't really get involved, because as long as the exterior looks acceptable, we usually don't get involved with the planning, because that's more internal and it doesn't impact the street or the neighbors. But the problem with this project, I think, is the planning. This is why you're having difficulty making the exterior elevations look right. That's why that porch doesn't look meaningful to me, because of the planning. You have a storage room basically facing the street, which is the closet. That's something that you would not do. You use the facade of the house or the front of the house for the most meaningful spaces. There's no reason why. Why couldn't you have a bedroom that's basically has windows on both sides and put the storage somewhere in the middle here? Or now you have windows here that are facing the street. You're getting southern light into the bedroom. You have a bedroom now that has light from both sides. Even if you don't go out, which you would. I think you would probably go out more from a bedroom onto a porch than from a bathroom onto a porch. That's my feeling. I don't know how people will use that exactly in that house, but, but it just seems odd. I mean, that whole plan on the second floor, it's very awkward. And again, if you can use that, form follows function, which is a classic, statement. And what that really means is, from the exterior, the house should represent what's inside, and otherwise you just end up with fake facades. And that's what that is right now. That balcony is a fake balcony. Even if somebody comes out of the porch from the bathroom, it's still a fake balcony because it's not good. It doesn't have any other purpose except to really sort of dress it up a little bit, because I don't think that balcony would be there if you weren't trying to dress up the front of the house.
Right.
It's a lost opportunity.
Yeah, it's
There's
just
this large master
that
bedroom.
beautiful that bedroom
One
could be
side
great.
yeah.
It'd be an awesome bedroom if you just take that storage room and put it somewhere else.
Right, and it makes almost more sense to have a door here from your office to the balcony than it does to the living.
I mean, why wouldn't it be, what if the storage were actually on this corner here, and you created a master bedroom suite that has the office in the master bedroom, sitting area with no partition so you don't see, there's a lot that could happen there where that could become a really great room, that you have views towards the north and views towards the south, and you have light, and it's just, I think it will be a much better space, and it will make a better building on the exterior.
I hope the architect's taking notes.
I'm crazy.
No, the public portion is closed. The public portion is closed.
No, we're sorry.
How the customer wants it.
The public portion, I'm sorry, is closed.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about what people like, it's what's right to do as well, because some days this house will be sold to somebody else, or the neighbors might sell the house, and it's our job, our duty to sort of protect the public interest, and not just people that live in there right now. So we have to make decisions based on sound design and sound architecture that's going to,
Outlive the
outlive
current
the owners, and still be a great building. And it's not about the neighbor, the person that buys that house may not want to live like that, but he buys it or she buys it because, for whatever reason, and then you're stuck with a building that has these kinds of things in it. So I think we should do the right thing, not just, if the neighbor doesn't want windows there, not, to do an elevation like that is awkward to me. But anyways, we're sort of, for me, I'm okay with the comments that we made, and I'm happy it's been back 3 times. I'm okay with the planners making these final adjustments. But I have to say, this house meets absolutely the most minimum threshold that I could probably want it to meet. But again, I'm doing it because I feel we've reached a point where we have to move on.
Well, your comments are duly noted, so I believe Gabe will definitely work with Stephanie to bring it to the level that the board expects.
Yeah, but I think it's important to people that statement, those statements.
And would you like to, instead of strongly consider, you can essentially require.
If the board's okay, I would say require it. I mean, I don't have an issue with that either. I just,
I'm more comfortable with a require than consider, frankly, for that.
Let's do
for that
require.
porch.
So if
On all the conditions?
And all the
Just that
conditions.
porch.
and all the other
Just the
conditions, of
porch.
course.
Okay.
But so instead of strongly consider, you would essentially be opening the bedroom onto the front porch.
However they want to lay it out. I mean, they can, if they want privacy, but that porch has to have more meaning than just, a decoration on the facade.
Okay. So with those,
I'll move that we return the project. Is that, would it, or what?
I think, let's talk about that. I think what I was saying was to approve it with those comments and have the staff
Okay.
resolve it so he doesn't have to come back again for...
You want to make that motion, and then
Yeah,
I'll...
I'm okay with that. I think we gave enough information, and I think Rick and the planning department handle that, because we made very clear, specific requests, so...
I'll second your motion.
I have a
Okay
motion.
with everybody?
I'm okay. Yep.
Go ahead. Gabe, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, this is a motion to approve the project, to have the applicant work with the urban design studio in order to bring the project up to the board's standards. Okay, this will be roll call. A motion was made by Mr. Aliano, seconded by Mr. Ellis. This is roll call. Mr. Aliano?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
And Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. And Mr. Chair, just for the side note, this application was submitted under the old ordinance. Anyone wishing to appeal has only 7 days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, our next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, and more specifically for May 1st and May 15.
Yes.
Ooh, I have May 15th, but I think we had them last time. Right, we had looked at them last time. I have, Mr. Chair, I have one note on the Thursday, May 15th. Do we want to do these and vote together, or do you want to just make a note and do them all at once?
We could all actually do them one by one. So if you
Okay.
want to start with May 15, let's start with May 15.
Under project number 1, 1401 Hillcrest, under the comments, I thought there was a comment about that the walls meet the code. You can see I'm a stickler about walls and fences. And that I thought that was reflected in the motion, and it's not reflected in the comments.
Okay, so this would be an additional, well, it would be a 5th comment stating that walls are to comply with the zoning code.
With the zoning code.
Okay. So
With that change, I would move to accept the minutes from May 15th.
Okay, that's a motion made by Board Member Ellis. Board Member Eliana, you were absent that day, so I would
I'll
need...
second.
I have a second by Board Member Yu. In terms of a roll call, Board Member Ellis?
Yes.
Board Member Yu?
Yes.
Chairperson Simonian?
Yes.
The motion passes 3-0 with 1 abstention. And this would be the minutes of May the 1st.
We also have the alternative assessment panel minutes.
Those are actually minutes that would need to be signed by Board Member Insua.
Gotcha,
Since
okay.
he is not here today, perhaps we can go ahead and continue that for an additional 2 weeks until he's
Works
over.
for me.
Okay, so it would be just back to the minutes of May the 1st, and all board members were present that day.
Right. And I believe I looked at them last week because we had them. I will move to accept the minutes from May 1.
Okay,
Was
motion
that
made
the
by...
one that was that one change at the end where the words were flipped or something?
Yeah, there was, but I don't have them with me, so I couldn't tell. Oh,
Flipped?
Can I see it real quick? Oh.
Of course.
all right. I'll withdraw my motion. Unless they caught them.
Of course, now I can't find it. Oh, here we go. Number 9, where it says used woods door for the both garages, should be used wood doors for both garages.
Right.
On page 7.
Number 9, under conditions, on page 7.
Make note of that right now.
Okay,
Or if
I'll
you don't
start
mind
with
making note of it, whichever's easier.
Doesn't change the meeting, just makes it clear.
Makes it clear and
It's just very
grammatically
funny.
correct.
Grammatically correct.
So with that,
I'll move
notation-
acceptance with that correction of the minutes of May 1.
Board Member Ellis, and then a second.
I'll second.
Board Member Yu, roll call. Board Member Ellis?
Yes.
Board Member Eliano?
Yes.
You were here that day, so you get to vote. Board Member Yu?
Yes.
And Chairperson Simonian?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 4-0. That concludes all of the required minutes to be approved, and also concludes any announcements that we have.
Correct, and there's no oral communications because there's no one else in the audience.
None.
And so do we have a motion?
I move we adjourn.
Second. Wonderful.
And we are adjourned at...
Adjourned.
All right, go Lakers.
Thank you.